They handcuffed me and my wife out here. They wanted me to sit on the curb while they were carrying this out, something that I refused to do. They wanted my wife to sit on the curb out here, that she refused to do.
As I was coming out, this big old drone met me.
The only revolutionary organization that's done something here on the ground practically for African people is the one that's come under attack. Institution that offers a community radio station, a newspaper, a commercial kitchen, an Aquaba Hall rental space, and community office for our organizers. That was the building that has come under attack.
You need a breach? What do you need?
Need one.
I don't know.
What's whole benefit money?
Hold on.
Josh, take it.
We will build a movement of white people that says hands
Yes.
off the Uhuru
Yes.
movement.
They see in the African People's Socialist Party a vanguard for the struggle for the liberation of our people. They see that because not just what we do here in the United States, but because we had the temerity to do like Garvey, to do like Malcolm X, and take the struggle of black people around the world.
Uhuru. Uhuru comrades, Uhuru supporters, Uhuru friends. My name is Mwezi Odom, and I am the chair of the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Defense Committee and Defense Campaign. And I want to thank you for coming on today. Wow, we have and are here today with a profound sense of urgency. We cannot overstate the significance of this moment, of this opportunity to be here today to speak to everybody. I want to also say that we are here because of this profound sense of urgency, because as you have heard, and the reason why you are all here is because we have, explained that there are serious indications that indictments are coming and coming very soon. And we want to make sure that the people know how to sum up this current period. What is happening to African people? What is happening to all freedom-loving and, people who are fighting for national liberation around the world, and how this that is happening right here is not just an isolated incident, and that this is something that we should all be concerned about. These attacks on the African People's Socialist Party are attacks on Africa, African people, and all who are fighting for the liberation of their people. And I want to say, first of all, I just want to really appreciate everybody and thank everybody who has been putting in the chat where they're tuning in from. Please continue to do so. We already see that we have people tuning in from all parts of the world. We have comrades and supporters here from Sweden, from London, France, Namibia, all regions throughout the United States, Philly, New Jersey, Chicago, Houston, West Coast and San Diego, New York State, and then also other organizations who are also in support of and have their own versions of a hands-off everything, right? Hands off, every liberation struggle. So I just want to really appreciate everybody who has made the struggle to be here on today. And before we continue, I must salute, the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, whose, leadership has brought the world to this place where we can now look at things in an objective, material way and understand that what is happening is an attack on the freedom of African people. So I really want to salute the chairman and thank him for his analysis that has really opened this up. And I want to also support and thank our supporters. I really want to appreciate, as you saw in that video there, after this attack, we had many supporters who immediately jumped into action. I want to specifically thank Jesse Todd, Zaki Baruti, who immediately came out to our St. Louis press conferences about an hour after the raids ended. We want to thank Democracy Now, for really playing out some of the footage and this interview. We want to thank also December 12th, Roger Wehrman, and everyone who pulled together, who also was actually celebrating their 35th anniversary. We also want to thank everybody, in Brooklyn that came together to make that presentation and that press conference important. Nellie Bailey, Lisa Davis, Marsha Coleman Adebayo, Carl Nelson, who have repeatedly put the chairman on, on their shows and on their broadcasts, Charles and Inez Barron. And we also want to just continue to appreciate our lawyers and other legal forces who are helping on this legal front, and the people, the donors, everybody that is here today. So you saw what happened on July 29th. The FBI orchestrated these pre-dawn raids against the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement. As you saw, they used flashbang grenades, they used drones, they were breaking down windows, breaking down doors. They attacked both of our offices in St. Petersburg, Florida, and our locations in North St. Louis and South St. Louis in the Solidarity Center as well. We know that this was an assassination attempt. We are not confused about that. And we understand the importance of this, because we want to be clear that Chairman Omali Yeshitela was the main target, who has fought his whole life for nothing more than for freedom and liberation of Africa and African people. And we have to understand that when we say Africa and African people, we mean African people everywhere, from the Caribbean to the US to the UK, everywhere we have been forcibly dispersed as a people and enslaved to work for this colonial mode of production. So we appreciate you for coming here today and for recognizing the urgency of this moment. These charges that are soon to be coming down will be and are a representation of the US's attempt to conflate this struggle and this crisis that it's under, by blurring these indictments with charges that are associated with the crisis that America is currently facing, January 6th and all these other incidences. And so the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Defense Campaign has a responsibility to show that this struggle that is happening right now predates any January 6th. It predates any COINTELPRO attacks, which did happen in the 1960s. We cannot ignore that. And we have to understand that this African liberation movement has been happening for over 600 years, right? When the first Africans were first snatched, as we can call the original sin, right? The original sin which has still continued and brought us to where we are today. And that's a quote, right? So I want to just make sure that we understand the significance of this campaign, that we are basically saying that even if you don't understand or support our line, that we are saying that any African, that we have to understand that right now we are in a period where anybody who considers that African people have the right to organize, to advocate for the unification and their liberation of Africa and African people globally, you need to join this campaign. You need to join and support this fight back for even just the basic things. If you, on the most basic level, understand that African people should have the right to, again, organize and advocate for themselves. If you are against the FBI, if you don't like being watched and have your, having your conversations recorded and having your privacy invaded, this is not an isolated incident. And we have to understand that it's not just the African People's Socialist Party that is under attack. It is everybody who is fighting for and fighting under this struggle for liberation. And I think that's very clear for many people that are in this room, and the majority of people on the earth who have spoken out against what is happening right now and what has been happening historically. So I want to say that we are fighting for the basic democratic rights. We have to understand that the colonizer, right, and the government, the US government, who says that they believe in democracy, right? They say that they believe in democracy, which for them and for us, we understand is self-determination. But for them, they will say that, democracy is for all, right? Well, here, we also stand for democracy too, as the chairman says, and that we're fighting for democracy. We're fighting for self-determination, which we understand is the highest expression of democracy, is self-determination for the colonized, not a colonial democracy, but our democracy. And we want to also say that if you unite with that, and that you understand that when we say we're fighting for democracy, that this is what it looks like. fighting for democracy for the people. And it's clear that they cannot handle that, as we can see here today. So I'm just going to wrap up by just saying, because I want to turn it over to the chairman, I want you to see and hear more about how to really sum up this period. But again, we have indications about these serious indictments that are coming down soon. We are outraged. You should be outraged, but we have an outpouring of support. We want to appreciate everybody who has made that possible to get this word out. And again, we are here to continue to flip this. And the chairman will talk about, the importance of how we need to see this as people who are on the right side of the question. We want to put the state on trial, as we have said before, and we will continue to push back and make it clear about what is our objective. So I want to thank you for your participation. We can make this happen, the people. We have to stay encouraged. We have to fight back. Do not take this lightly. And we want to, and I want to go ahead and turn it over to the chairman, and you will learn more about how you can support us, where you can donate. We have chat moderators in the chat who are working hard to make sure that you know about all of that as well. So let me come back on screen, or come back to my big screen. And as we're pulling up the chairman, please go to handsoffuhuru.org. You're going to see where you can sign our emergency pledge to be alerted for any further attacks. Continue to look in the chat and follow up on everything that we're asking you to do so we can build a united front. So Uhuru chairman, thank you so much, Uhuru.
Uhuru, I want to thank you also, Comrade Mwezi. And I want to really express my appreciation to up to now the nearly 200 people who are involved in this meeting right now. As Comrade Mwezi indicated to you, there are indications that we have perceived that help us to know that indictments are on the horizon. As you know, on July 29th, the party, the various organizations, headquarters and homes of members of our party, members of our party Solidarity Front were violently invaded by military forces the FBI. And I said military forces because they came in camouflage gear, they came with flak jackets, they came with automatic weapons. And in the instance of their invasion of my house at 5 o'clock in the morning, they used laser targeting devices that they made sure I was able to experience on my chest. So there were all of these laser beams hitting me in the chest to let me know that they had assault weapons and were prepared to kill me. And in front of my house, when they came, there was also armored vehicle, and they were using flash bang grenades. Grenades were going off all in the neighborhood. They were going off in the stairwell of my house in the back. And as my wife exited our home here in St. Louis, she was met by a drone that was flying up the stairs as she exited the house. So this is the attack. And then at the same time, they were doing this in North St. Louis, which is majority African community, a majority poor African community experiencing all kinds of economic, political, and social distress. While they were doing this in North St. Louis, in South St. Louis, which the majority of white people live there as well, where the party has also established a front in the form of the African People's Solidarity Committee and the Uhuru Solidarity Center that's located there. They banged open with various kinds of battering rams. They knocked the doors down. They used flashbang grenades. They went up the stairs to an apartment upstairs. They handcuffed two of the residents there, a young man, young woman, one of whom already is indicated as an unindicted co-conspirator. And although the young woman who was there was not indicated as a co-indicted conspirator yet, she definitely will be included in this indictment we see coming down the line. They had invaded my home here in St. Louis. They stole recording devices. They took from us our cell phones. They took iPads. They took computers. They did a similar thing in South St. Louis. In St. Petersburg, Florida, at the same time, They went to our headquarters occupied by our radio station, our newspaper production process, all of our communication processes, including the books that we publish, etc. They raided there. Some of our economic institutions are centered there. They raided there, and they took recording devices. They took the radio station momentarily off the air. They went into archives that we have from 40 to 50 years of archives, the history of our struggle and the history of struggles of peoples around the world. You saw some of the footage not too long ago where there were scores of people, scores of agents, military forces, the FBI who went and swarmed into that place. At the same time, they went into my house in St. Petersburg, Florida, which is where I was living, which is where much of my political activity since a young man was begun. They went to my home, that is to say, the home of me and Deputy Chair Onazene Ishatella. They raided that. They knocked doors down to that house. They invaded. They took all kinds of materials out of the house. And as they did in St. Louis, they shut down the entire African community where this was going on. They went to the home in St. Petersburg, Florida, of Akile Anai, one of the unindicted co-conspirators, who is a young woman who is the editor of our newspaper and oversees all of the information production and distribution of the African People's Socialist Party inside this country and throughout the world. And they used the St. Petersburg Police Department as they had used the St. Louis Police Department to participate in this process. And in St. Petersburg, they knocked on the door of Akile Anai's house, and they told her that her car had been broken into and that she should come out and investigate. And once she got outside, she saw, in addition to the St. Petersburg police, there were FBI agents everywhere. They surrounded her. They took her cell phone and things like that. So this is what happened. And in the process of trying to find out why they were doing this, and you can imagine how some people were experiencing this. All of a sudden, you know, we alerted, my wife and I were sitting at the dining room table, and we were preparing for the day. And she in particular had this responsibility because one of the more than 50 economic and other institutions that we've created was a doula project where we training African women to become doulas. And that's especially important to Africans anywhere in the world, as people know what is happening that minimizes the ability of African people to reproduce ourselves under the circumstances that we have inherited from a social system that stems from the enslavement of African people and the colonization of the peoples of the world. So here we are sitting at the table, and she has to, within a matter of 3 or 4 hours, she has to be at the Uhuru house because there are a number of people, 14 or 15 women who are going to be trained to be doulas to facilitate the birth of African children and the safety of African women. And in St. Louis, that's particularly important because we have a situation where enough Black babies die every year in the first year of life to fill 15 different kindergarten classrooms. So that's the kind of thing that we were dealing with and preparing for here when we were attacked in St. Louis. And we've done all kinds of work creating economic development programs. And we feel like this struggle that we're involved in is a struggle against colonialism. It is not a struggle against the ideas in the heads of white people like racism. It is a struggle to negate the ability of an external force to determine whether or not we would have food, clothing, and shelter. And part of the process of doing this is historical in terms of the struggle of our people with Marcus Garvey, who created factories and other kinds of institutions of economic development. The original Nation of Islam did the same kind of thing. That's been part of the entire struggle that we've been involved in as a part of the process of not dealing with just the ideas in the heads of white people, but to facilitate our ability to control our own lives. And in so doing, what we do is minimize the ability of anybody else to control our own lives, like being able to tell us whether or not we can have this idea or that idea without being forced, but without being punished for it in a very serious way. So I wanted to say that. And then I wanted to say that what we gathered finally when I'm standing outside at 5 o'clock in the morning or shortly thereafter, and asking, why are you doing this? What is it that that gives you the ability, the authority, an excuse to be able to attack my house? The grenades that you're using in my house, the ability to occupy the porch, the front porch of my next door neighbors, and put tape over the video of the doorbell video. What is it that gives you the excuse to do this? Why are you doing this? Why are you in my house? I'm zip tied behind my back. My wife has been handcuffed. And so what they say is that later that day, first of all, they let me know that this is going to be big news. This is going to be in the news soon. You're going to be on the news. And then they zip tied me. They zip tied my wife. They handcuffed my wife behind her back. And then they say that later this morning, there's going to be an indictment coming down in Tampa, Florida, against a Russian national. And your name is involved and been mentioned in this indictment. And so we have this search warrant to occupy your premises, to take whatever we want to take these items from you and from your premise. This is the basis. And then we were to learn later, because we didn't see any charges, we didn't see any indictment. That was something they said they didn't have, because the indictment was going to be released in Tampa later. But then what we learned is that what we are accused of doing, looking at the charges that we finally were able to see, is that somehow when we ran for office in St. Petersburg, Florida, we ran the first campaign using the electoral process. We ran the first campaign demanding reparations to African people, and that was in St. Petersburg, Florida. We ran a campaign that was so significant, and Comrade Akilia Nai was one of the candidates. And we ran Jesse Neville, who was another of the so-called unindicted co-conspirators in a city with only 20% African population. Jesse Neville was the candidate from our movement for mayor. And the slogan for his campaign, the theme of his campaign, was unity through reparations. We put reparations on the ballot. First time in the history of this country that has ever occurred. And then this made news in a way that was unexpected by any of us, because during the debate, a mayor's debate there in St. Petersburg, Florida, for this election, that is to say an election for a bait for the mayor's seat, then this white man made the statement that you've already got your reparations, talking about Black people. He said the election of Obama was your reparations. If you don't like it, go back to Africa. And that went viral, and people saw that and exclaimed disgust and things like that as a consequence of it happening. But this is what happened. This is the point that the reparations demand. We put it there. It ended up, there was no campaign when Barack Hussein Obama first announced in his first election, running for office in the first so-called presidential campaign that occurred in Harlem, New York. The question of reparations was raised by Black people, not by us, but Africans who were there. And they asked the question of whether or not the candidates supported reparations, and Obama came out in opposition to the reparations demand. But subsequent to that, Obama, who came out against, and for the first time in his history, he came out and to support the candidate that we were running against in St. Petersburg, Florida. Here's the president of the United States involving himself in that election. And so this is a part of what it is that we were looking at and contending with. And then Kamala Harris had to come out for reparations. The other candidates, I think Elizabeth Warren came out and said, I'm for reparations. Joe Biden said he was not for reparations. But the point is, we put it on the ballot and we made it necessary for them to begin to address the question of reparations because of our activity around that question. This is the election that they said that the Russians are responsible for funding. This is what we are charged with being involved in, doing this political politics because of Russian influence. So what I want to say is that they have characterized what we are doing as some kind of violation of what is called the Foreign Agent Registration Act, that we didn't register as foreign agents. And the evidence of our being foreign agents is I went to Moscow. But if they had wanted to, they could have charged me of being a foreign agent because I went to Nicaragua. even shortly after the revolution there. I went to Ireland during the time that the British were occupying Ireland openly as a colonial power. I was there and had a relationship with these forces. So anything that we do at any moment, they can determine this. And the so-called Foreign Agent Registration Act has had different iterations over the period of time, but in the 1930s, when it was created, it was supposed to have been created to deal with Nazi influence in American politics. They want to make sure that didn't happen. It has had different iterations and of course been influenced by different political struggles that the United States has been involved in at any given time. But that's what they say we have violated. But even if you look at that law, it is clear that they have no basis for being able to charge us, and there's no way in hell that they can win a case based even just on law. But they're not using just law. They're flaming the imaginations and the passions of the people in this country. They're frightening the people in this country. And there are very severe contradictions that exist in this country that the United States is trying to, and the Biden administration right at this moment are trying to deal with by attacking us. And part of what they're trying to do is conflate the struggle that African people have always historically been involved in to conflate the attack on the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement. Another represents other expressions of crisis in this country, like January 6th and like Donald Trump. And so, and like the Proud Boys and all these other things. And so they are protecting American society by dealing with all of those forces, including the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement. And we're saying that we cannot allow them to do that. And that this is one of the reasons that they're gearing up to do like an indictment of us at this moment when they are in the process of trying and putting all these other people in jail, frightening people. And they've got the attention of a lot of people just based on Trump, based on the Proud Boys, based on January 6th. And these are real serious attacks that they have to deal with, but they want to conflate the oppression of Black people, the work that they're doing, the struggle that Black people have been involved in historically, before Donald Trump was even born, could have been born, before his parents left Ireland or wherever they came from to come to the United States. Black people have been fighting for our freedom. And so they want to make this kind of thing a part of what it is that they're dealing with. They say that they are suggesting that somehow that it's clear that we were working for the Russians because we supported we were opposed to what this war that's being made against Russia using Ukraine. There's a historical basis for that, that we can make that argument. But, you know, the truth of the matter is we disagree with the United States there. We supported the Vietnamese in the struggle that the United States was making against them. We support the Palestinians in the struggle that was being, the war that was being, colonial war being waged against them and supported by the United States. And yes, we supported the people in Venezuela and the people in Cuba. Even as the United States was invading Cuba, we were forces who supported them. So what they do is take our disagreement and the fact it wasn't just us, the whole African population, Black people historically have been traditionally opposed to unjust wars being waged by the United States in this country. We opposed to what they're doing to Zimbabwe, the economic quarantine they placed on Zimbabwe to starve our people into submission there. So to say that somehow that our position on Ukraine represents a relationship with Russia is just obviously insidious and obviously something that's being done to criminalize the struggle of Black people to win our freedom. So anytime we try to fight for our freedom, then it can be characterized not as an attack on the right for Black people to be free, but as somehow working in the interest of foreign agents, a foreign government, a foreign power, etc. We don't need a foreign power to tell us that we are oppressed. We know that, and that's the reason for that. And if it were up to me, just in part of trying to make this case the way it should be made, up to me, part of what we will be doing is taking Joe Biden's words that made with these 49 so-called heads of state that he summoned to Washington, D.C., and that he talked about he was going to give $55 billion if they do what he says do. And this is preceding the budget that was just put forward by the U.S. Senate, that was forwarded by the U.S. Senate that calls for $1.7 trillion, with much of that being designed to fight the war against Ukraine. So here, Biden brings these 49 so-called heads of state to Washington, D.C. To give them instructions and what he calls money, resources, notwithstanding the amount of billions and trillions of dollars being stolen from Africa right now, and those trillions of dollars in Africa right now that they have not yet extracted, but they intend to extract forever. So Biden makes this statement to these Africans, because today, just like in the 1960s when they were making war, such a serious war against African people, today they are in contest. They're in a contest also, not just with Africans, but with Russia and China for influence in Africa and around the world. And so Biden says to the heads of state, he makes a statement about how the United States, has to recognize, and we recognize that the original sin. He said our original sin was the enslavement of Black people and the treatment of African people who are here. We say, you're damn right, that's your original sin. But Karl Marx said the same thing, using the very same words, saying that this was the original sin. He said that the oppression, the capture, the enslavement of African people, turning Africa into a warrant for the commercial hunting of Black skins, had the same significance as original sin. That has the same significance in political economy as original sin in theology. So, here's Biden quoting Karl Marx, but having to recognize the conditions that Black people suffer from, and we agree. So how in the hell can you say that this is the original sin, Biden, and that Black people have experienced this and then put me in jail, put us in prison, attack our homes and houses for trying to deal with the original sin that you've confessed the America is guilty of? How do you do that? And so we say that's obviously ridiculous, and that it's a contrived political attack that they're making against us. So this whole notion that somehow our position on Ukraine represents some criminal activity, we supported. In fact, it was SNCC. I was a member of SNCC that popularized the slogan, hell no, we won't go, when it came to the United States war and aggression against the people of Vietnam, colonial people of Vietnam. It was Muhammad Ali who made the statement, ain't no Vietnamese ever called me nigger. There's a tradition in the African community of being opposed to the unjust wars that's being made against peoples by the United States, and that's not different. So it seems to me that the United States need to be able to make this case against us by showing that there has no tradition, that somehow this is a new phenomenon, that African people would pop up and start talking about genocide, that African people would pop up and start talking about how to have elections. I mean, when the FBI attacks us and then used as a basis for this attack, the bombing of our homes at 5 o'clock in the morning of July 29th, how is that different from the Klan and other white nationalists bombing our churches in 1963? Well, because we were voting. How can our participation in elections be somehow, how can this attack for our participation in the electoral process be characterized as working for the Russians today? And that was the same claim that was made in the 1960s. I participated in voting rights. I was in Madison Square Garden, when Madison, Florida, when mob of white people surrounded me because, and with the threat to take my life, because I was trying to register African people to vote. I was in Alachua County, Florida, trying to register African people to vote, and was almost thrown in jail at that time. And I was working with a process that was headed up at that time by Vernon Jordan, who became a darling of the Democratic Party, a darling of the American government, who was also a leader in CORE, and who was the man who took the dress of Monica Lewinsky. So the fact is that there's a tradition, a history of our people in terms of the electoral process that predates anything that the Russians could possibly be involved in. And I think that's really important to make that point. And that's the thing that's how we're going to take this struggle on in a very serious way. So in terms of genocide, as you know, in 1954, I think it was, the Genocide Convention was passed at the United Nations in 1948. Shortly after that, you saw Africans, William Patterson, people like Paul Robeson and others going to the United Nations. There's even a book that you can Google and get called We Charge Genocide. So they're saying that the Russians paid us to do genocide, to anti-genocide work. And they do this because they want to avoid the criticism that Black people and other oppressed people are making against America. So they won't say that yes, we will attack you because you are revealing and exposing the crimes being committed against African people, or the crimes being committed against the Palestinians, or the crimes being committed against the Mexicans and other indigenous people. They won't say, no, 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 no. That's not what we are doing. We are attacking you not because you're exposing us. We're attacking you because the Russians told you to expose us, because the Russians paid for us to expose us. So that's their line, that's their position. And we're going to beat them, and you're going to help us beat them. And I think that's really important. And so we're talking about they're charging us, the Russians are responsible for our anti-genocide work. The Russians are responsible for the work that we are doing to have political work in the electoral process that's required an end to the gentrification of our communities, that's requiring Black community control of the police, that's requiring reparations for African people. They're saying the Russians are paying for that. And so therefore they liquidate whether or not genocide is being committed against African people. They liquidate the fact that we are being gentrified out of our communities throughout this country and in Africa itself. They don't have to deal with that because they take it off the table by saying that the only reason that we're saying this is because the Russians said it. So we are going to have to deal with that. Now, the thing is that they say we violated this law, and that they have been investigating us and they've retrieved all kinds of stuff from us. But if they knew that, and they said that because a person that we were working with in Russia, who was a part of a non-governmental agency as far as we understood it, but if they knew something different, if they knew that this was some kind of agent for the Russians, then why the hell didn't they tell us? Why didn't they say, hey, you know, this is really the Russian government that's doing this and that to you? In fact, the foreign how's it called, this registration, foreign agent registration act even suggests that that's what the government would do. Would come and tell somebody, hey, you are violating this. They didn't do that because first of all, it's a lie. We didn't violate anything, but they will construct a case based on, they will steal our information. And they might even get somebody, snitches and agents that they put in our organization to say, yes, that's what they did. But there's no way in hell they can prove anything like that because it's a lie. It's an absolute total lie. We have never taken a single penny from the Russian government. In fact, we have raised thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, and people, white people who are paying reparations dues for this economic institution that we are engaged in to uplift the conditions of African people in this country and around the world. So I think it's really important to say that. And the thing is that we have to be free. And I think about how in 1969, it's the year that it was said that J. Edgar Hoover, who was the then executive director of the secret political police that's called the FBI, indicated that the Black Panther Party was the greatest threat to the internal security of this country. It was that time also that 21 members of the Black Panther Party was put in jail and tried in New York for being conspirators of some sort on a conspiracy charge, just like they're charging us with conspiracy. 21 members of the Black Panther Party in 1969. The same year, of course, as you know, that they murdered Fred Hampton with the assistance of the FBI in Chicago at 4 o'clock in the morning in this instance. So here's what you have. And so now they would engage in this kind of activity and make the Africans ourselves responsible for what it is that for their behavior. And this is as an ongoing, long-standing war that's being made against African people. Fred Hampton did not commit suicide. Malcolm X did not commit suicide. Martin Luther King did not commit suicide. The fact is the FBI did harass Marcus Garvey. In fact, it cut his teeth attacking Marcus Garvey. The FBI did involve itself in the attack on the Black Panther Party. The FBI did construct what is called a counterintelligence program to deal specifically with Black people, and with an objective being in part to prevent the rise of a Black Messiah, to prevent the so-called Black liberation movement from achieving some kind of respectability, to do everything it has to do in order to neutralize us. And this is what's happening. And they did this in the 1960s. But when it was happening to us in the 1960s, we didn't know what it was. We knew it had to have some kind of coordination, but we didn't know. And then it was later that we learned there was a program called counterintelligence program that was initiated by the FBI. And because we didn't know at that time, we didn't have the capacity to defend ourselves effectively from it. And we didn't have an opportunity to have you in this meeting and this discussion to fight back. But now we know. They have announced it. They put it on TV. They told us that this is going to be big news, what we are doing to you. And now, because we know and have this ability to participate with you, we can fight back, we can win, we must fight back, and we must win. So this is what it is that we are talking about and why we want you to participate. We got to raise a whole bunch of money because we haven't even seen the total number of people who they're going to indict in this process. They've indicated already, we've got indications that the indictments are coming soon, and that they will include people who have not been up to now involved in terms of even the limited identification that they have done, like with me, Jesse Neville, Penny Hess, and Akile Anai. That there are others, they say. And so we got to have lawyers. We got to have a bunch of lawyers. And also we have a situation trying to fight back where people have tried to give contributions to our defense and went through GoFundMe. And GoFundMe has refused since October to give $9,000 that people have contributed to this campaign. We got to have lawyers. We got to have lawyers so that we can have the people who have not lawyered up to now can have lawyers when that indictment comes down, before that indictment comes down. And we have to have the ability to have people taking on different aspects of this struggle and campaign. Because part of what has to happen is that the FBI and the United States government has to be responding to the criticism being made by Black people historically about the oppression against us. And they can't liquidate criticism by charging us with some kind of crime because we make the criticism. And this has been the history, that they charge us because we make the criticism. We make the criticism, we're somehow working against the United States government. And I think it's a hell of a place for the United States government to be in. To say that when people are advocating for the freedom of Black people, when people are advocating for the end of the oppression of Black people, when people are saying that there shouldn't be cops killing an African a day or more throughout this country, that somehow it's the Russians who are responsible for supporting that against the United States government, where we are people who are determined to be free. And that's our objective throughout. So I think it's really important to understand that, and for you to participate in this campaign and let them know that there's a major fight back that's coming, and that all of us should be committed to turning this thing that they are trying to make, this war they're trying to make against Africa and the African Revolution, as a great expose of the historical oppression and exploitation, not only of Africans in this country, Africans around the world, and all of the other colonial peoples of the world. This is what we have to take out to the world. We got to raise a lot of money. We got to get lawyers and other things like that. And with that, Comrade Mwezi, I suspect I've overtalked the time frame that was allocated for me. Uhuru.
Uhuru, Chairman. Chairman, by no means did you overtalk, and you basically have summed up 600 plus years of oppression and you know, just the violence and all the reasons why we are here today, still fighting after all this time for Africa to be free, for all colonized people to have this whole colonial mode of production off our backs. And I just really want to appreciate you, Chairman, for taking the time. And you know, I hope you will continue to, you know, deepen this, because this is really important for us to understand the significance of this problem. And I appreciate you before we move the agenda, Chairman, I just want to really appreciate your bringing up, again, this quote, right? This original sin, right? And like, how do we break this down? I mean, everything that we see under this system, everywhere that you look, where you see people suffering, when you see African people suffering, you can understand that these are extensions of this original sin, from even just not having clean water to, as Chairman said, the amount of Black babies that die in 1 year in North St. Louis alone, understanding that every aspect of our lives that is seen as a quote unquote Black problem, this is colonialism. And so this original sin, as has been stated, is equivalent to, what the Bible will equate as original sin, we understand as colonialism. And I want to or theology rather, but I do want to also say, Chairman, I really appreciate just for us to understand that basically what's happening is that we want out of this relationship. And if you have a friend that's in a bad relationship, the first thing you want to do is tell your friend to get out of that relationship. And here is Africa saying, we don't want it no more. And of course, in this process, we are having, here's the advocate for the people, the African People's Socialist Party, Chairman Amalia Shatella, saying, no, we want out. And so of course we're going to be attacked. We have to understand this very clearly and very plainly. And because we have friends who the US government and the FBI doesn't like, then, here we go again. And so we want liberation, we want out. And I also wanted to appreciate just what you raised, Chairman, around the fact that we are dispersed people. We have to organize, we have to travel to go talk to each other. We have to be able to have a way to think and have a theory that will speak to our interests. And so it's really important for us to understand that this foreign agent, whatever they want to say, is a reflection of what we've been forced to do as a dispersed people. We have to be able to communicate and have the freedom of speech, freedom of association, and all of that. So just want to appreciate that that overview, Chairman. And before we move on, I do want to just thank plenty of the people who are here, and we're going to move actually into a PowerPoint, myself and Comrade Lisa Davis.
Before going there, Comrade Mwezi,
all right.
I just want to say that it seems to me like, just in terms of legality alone, based even on their courts, that to say that the Russians paid us to do this presupposes there's no other history or tradition that shows that we do this or would do this or something if Russians were not involved. And so Biden to talk about original sin, the fact is that the NAACP is evidence that these contradictions that Biden talked about still exist. The Urban League, who puts out every year the state of Black America. It seems to me that we would be having witnesses from the Urban League and witnesses from the FBI to justify their history and the ongoing existence. It's not like the NAACP was founded 100 years ago and then disappeared at some point after the original sin had been wiped away. It's not like the Urban League doesn't come up with horrendous information every year about the conditions of African people in this country, and they're not claiming that the Russians are responsible for that. But the difference, as we know, is that we are the only ones who are defining this as based on a colonial relationship. And colonialism presupposes not just asking the oppressor to like us, as opposed to associated with an anti-racist thing, but the deal with colonialism presupposes that an oppressed and colonized people would achieve a capacity of self-governance, self-determination. That's the highest expression of democracy. And I just want to say that, and part of what I think is that we have to really construct this struggle inside and outside the courtroom, and those people who are participating in this meeting now are part of the defense, the part of the struggle that we are making outside the courtroom. And we will have lawyers, hopefully, who will be able to express much of what we are talking about inside the courtroom. The United States, has to be able to show that there is no history that of Black people doing the very same things that they claim the Russians suddenly decided that we are involved in. Thank you, Comrade Uhuru.
Uhuru, Chairman. Yes, I just really want to appreciate this, all the contradictions that we see in this, just in colonial law itself. And And again, the importance of what you just raised about the legal aspects of this. And not only do we have to express this in the courtrooms and on the ground, but again, I want to, express as we move into this next section that we need the resources. We have to be able to wage the ability to fight this back on, as the chairman said, there will be more people named in this broad stroke that they want to do to just paint everybody into this, this bogus, these bogus allegations. So thank you, Chairman, for that. And I do want to say we have some questions that I already know people have questions. We will have an opportunity for Q&A as well. So if there's anything that the chairman said that you want to speak on, or whatever, please hold your questions, or you can place them in the Q&A. And if you don't have access to the Q&A, please let our chat moderators know. They will be able to assist you with any complications on the end with Zoom. So I want to, perfect, thank you, comrade. We are going to move on and just give everybody, and especially because, we do see that we have some new people here with us today. We want to thank you and we want to welcome you, but we want to make it clear that why we are here to put the state on trial. We have, there's history itself alone can explain why, what is the truth and, why we are here. And so we're not confused by that. Then we will skip the next slide because you already saw this video about what happened on July 29th. But if you haven't seen, or if you don't know where to find this, go to the Burning Spirit TV and you will find this. It's called Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa. Show this video, share it as far and wide as you can, because as we say, we are not retreating, we are building, and we will continue to wage this fight back in every aspect. The colonial media will do everything in its power to make sure that people don't even know that this happened. So if we know, we have a responsibility to get this out to the people. Uhuru. So next slide. Thank you, comrade. So I just want to also express, that when you support the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa defense campaign, you're taking a stand in exactly what the party was attacked for, right? Because it has always fought for the liberation and, for Africa and African people everywhere. And so you support the powers, the projects like the Black Power Blueprint. You support the One Africa, One Nation marketplace. You support our, our community garden, the African Doula Health Program, and our health center that we're building for African women and the African family, which includes just amazing programs for the people. So, and this is just a small slice. The Black Power Blueprint is an example of what it looks like when African people have power over our own resources, over our own lives, over our future. And because we have, in North St. Louis, in one of the most impoverished areas in this country, speaking here within the, borders of the so-called United States, where African people make less than $5 a day. And so this is an example of what it looks like when the African working class is in power. And so when we say hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa, we mean exactly that: hands off our freedom, hands off Africa and African people. So I just want to say that this is just a small example of what you will, what you can expect from the Black Power Blueprint, or from the African People's Socialist Party and the work. So next slide. Uhuru. Okay, next slide. There we go. Thank you, comrade. So I also want to, make it clear that, again, on July 29th, as the chairman said, the FBI attacked these four unindicted co-conspirators, or named them. We have the chairman, we have Director Akile Anayi, who was the director of the party's agitation and propaganda. Also, the chair of the African People's Solidarity Committee, Penny Hess, and the chair of the Uhuru movement, the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, Jesse Neville. And we will hear from these unindicted co-conspirators in the future, and you'll hear more about that as well. But we want to be able to get their faces out because, as we said, plus other movement members, right? They have this broad stroke. So next slide. And we want to, acknowledge to the people that when you support the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa defense campaign, you are on the most basic level, just uniting with the fact that African people have the right to advocate, to organize for the unification and liberation and self-determination of Africa and African people. You also, basically, you can just denounce the FBI government's attacks on the African liberation movement historically and currently. And if you're being attacked, you denounce it on them too, and you sign our petition. You can also denounce, and demand that the government drops these charges they dropped the charges and against any member of the African People's Socialist Party, and the Uhuru movement, and anybody who's named in those indictments and the warrants. And we demand the return of all confiscated property to the Uhuru movement, compensation for damages and payments of reparations for the attacks. And we also want to say that we demand an end to FBI surveillance and infiltration of the Uhuru movement since the 1960s, and the release of all documents of everybody who has been struggling against, fighting back against this system as well. And again, we denounce the assault on the anti-colonial programs of the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement, as I mentioned before, with the Black Power Blueprint and all the other programs that we have. So when you unite with this, you unite with the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Defense Campaign, and you say, stop, and I'm gonna sign this pledge, and I'm gonna join this fight back. So next slide. So I want to take a moment to just to really just appreciate and thank those who have endorsed the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa campaign. There's too many to put on this slide. If you go to our website, you will see even more. But those even who are joining us right now, I want to appreciate comrades from Unión del Barrio. I want to appreciate Ron Gochez, Robert Wareham from D12. I want to appreciate the Green Party of St. Louis. We have Don Fitz, Barbara, and Angelica as well. I want to also appreciate the the Los Angeles US Hands Off Cuba campaign. We want to really appreciate you, comrades. Aquiles from Chile, from the Chile organization, or an organization in Chile in support of also the number of comrades from occupied Azania or South Africa, and who are also, everywhere throughout the world. We also want to appreciate Marsha Coleman Adebayo, who is here with us on Zoom, Charles and Inez Barron, who are also here with us as well, Margaret Kimberly with the Black Agenda Report, Lucy Murphy, who is in Washington, D.C., a fierce sister, cultural worker, as well as Reverend Dr. Julianne Robertson, who also works with Sister Marsha Coleman Adebayo with the African Bethesda Cemetery. And New York council persons, as I said, Charles Barron, who we will hear from later on today. So these are just a few of those that we just want to really appreciate for being here with us today on this call. Next slide. And for your statements of solidarity, because, it is important that we are, showing the U.S. government that when you attack one of us, you attack all of us. So as we say, touch one, touch all. Uhuru. So thank you. So we've had many interviews, and I want to just continue to appreciate. We have, please look for the announcements at the end of this program. You will learn about another exciting interview that we want everybody to come and watch and see over this weekend on Sunday. Next slide. Again, just want to really appreciate all those who have supported us. And again, thank you to Carl Nelson and Marsha Coleman Adebayo, who have had repeatedly brought the chairman onto their broadcast, as well as everybody who in the beginning days, when we knew that it was so important for us to be out there and in the front of this, put us on your show, brought the chairman on to have him explain exactly what happened. And we want to salute everybody that we see here, plus many more. Uhuru. This campaign is funded by our volunteers. And it's funded by our volunteers who have, continued to, bring in their energy, bring in all their creativity into this fight back. And so I just want to really acknowledge some of the creativity of our volunteers, which you can see here. We want you to join this campaign, whether you have skills in social media, whether you, know how to make videos and, graphic design. If you are a legal assistant or a law student and you want to return your skills, this is the campaign for you right now in this moment in history. Be a part of history, bringing back your skills into the community to help, free the African community of this oppression, thus liberating everyone else in the world who is fighting against this colonial state, because that's where we're, that's who we're attacking in this fight back. And I also want to appreciate Comrade Zaki Baruti, who is also on the call, I believe. And again, as I mentioned in the beginning, who was one of the first people who showed up, and who was there with us following those attacks on July 29th. So we cannot overstate and thank our donors enough. And today we do have a call for how much we want to raise today. And we'll talk more about that, but our donors have been a critical part of this process for us to be able to raise resources to not only, raise the fight back in the street, but to pay, our lawyers so that we can have a formidable defense. Uhuru. Next slide. All right, thank you, Carmen. And we say again, you can't stop Uhuru. We want to thank everybody who during our tour from basically from August all the way through to November took us through tour, places. Chairman traveled all over this country alone, putting out the word. And we want to thank everybody who made that happen. Next slide. From, like we said, New York, New Jersey, New York, West Coast to East Coast and all the way back into the Midwest. We want to appreciate everybody who made that happen. We want to also salute on our next slide, comrades who have, done their own events in their own regions as well. We want to shout out to the comrades in San Diego, comrades also in, in France and in England as well as our comrades in St. Pete who held a great webinar called, why the FBI attacked us. So you can learn more about that there. You can find all of these on our website as well. And we want to appreciate everybody who made it out to November 5th. Next slide. And you marched on the White House. Like we said, we were shouting 2468, tell the people who you hate. And we would say what? The FBI, the CIA, the whole damn state. We had mobilizations happening in Washington, D.C., in Johannesburg, South Africa, and at U.S. embassies in London, and also other places throughout the world. So we want to really salute everybody who made that strong fight back. And we have a goal for today. And the goal, I think that slide might be updated, but because I want to make an announcement before I announce this particular goal, because we had a goal of raising $1,000, and we are actually over that goal, I must say, because I just want to appreciate, because ever since we sent out these notifications and told people that this is serious, that indictments will be coming down, we have found that people immediately began donating. So we had a goal of raising $1,000 for today's webinar, but we have to acknowledge that we have surpassed that. So right now we have a goal of raising $2,000 because we want to really make this push, comrades, friends, and supporters, that we can do what we need to do to make sure that we have the resources to wage this fight back. So we have only $595 to go to reach our new donation. And I just want to thank some of the donors right now who made it possible for us to even be at this point, that we can really stretch this as far and wide as we can, comrades. So I want to thank Halima, I want to thank Eric, I want to thank Kat, Phil, the anonymous donor. Thank you so much for your anonymous and generous donation. Brendan, and Anne as well, Susan, and another anonymous donor, Grady, Becky, MQ, Penny, Wendy, another anonymous donor, and Betty. Those are just some of the few people who have donated in this recent, few days leading up to this event to help us meet our resource goal. So again, as I said, we have 595 to go. I don't know how many people are on this call right now. I know we have plenty of people. And I want to say, even if we can get it to a point where every person donates $5, $10, let's make this happen on this webinar today. Let's make sure that we really bring it forward so that we can make this fight back. And I have Comrade Lisa Davis, who might be able to join me as well, because we want to really continue to bring on all of the everybody who has helped to raise resources. And you don't have to just donate on today. If you want to host an event, if you want to be able to sell some clothes and have a fundraiser, these are some other ways that you can help us raise resources for this fight back. So let me come right back here. Oh, I think I see Comrade Lisa on the call. Thank you for joining me, Comrade Uhuru.
First of all, let me just say this.
Yes.
New Jersey's got your back. I'm telling you right now, we got your back. And Newark has your back specifically, but we're unafraid. We are vigilant, and we support you. I can safely say that. And yes, please, people, any amount that you can donate is so appreciative. As we have always heard, freedom ain't free, and I can't think of a better use for them dead presidents than the Black liberation struggle. So please, and I just pledged $30. My pocketbook's like, here, go, Lisa, go.
Hey, do it.
my pocketbook's like, don't pay attention to your bank account. Ignore it. Just go on and pledge what you can pledge. Yes, Toba, we got them. We are behind you. We are undeterred, unafraid. And that has been the response from everybody that I've been speaking to. It really has been. So again, you can go to handsoffuhuru.org, donate. We're gonna surpass, we're gonna get this $2,000 goal surpassed.
Yes, right on, comrade. Thank you so much. And I hope you can stay with us as we continue to tell people how else they can support this fight back. Because as Lisa said, Jersey is with you. And if you are with this, you put in the chat right now, say, San Diego, we are with you. Wherever you're tuning in from right now, let us know that you are with us. And I see some pledges in the chat. Make those pledges a reality. You can go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate so that we can announce you and thank you on this call. So I want to appreciate you, Comrade Lisa, for being with me. And I want to also thank some of the new donors that have just come in. I want to thank Ali, I want to thank Ty, and I want to thank Len as well. So we are actually close enough to where we only have to raise $25 more. Comrades, this is clear. We can't stop here. So I'm not even going to cap this. I want to see how far we can go, if we can even double, our original goal. And I'm not going to, just keep it there, because there's other ways that you can support this fight back. And it is a financial thing, but it's also a people thing, right, comrade?
Oh, definitely. And also, I see some, I can't see their names, but a $50 donation in the chat. Jamie Hedman. $50 donation from the chat. I see Aisha Fields just donated $10. Again, any amount, there's no amount too small or too large.
Right on. Yes, comrades, nothing too big, nothing too small. And if you put it in the chat, make sure you put it on the website, because we want to make sure that we can announce it. So thank you, Comrade Lisa, for checking the chat as well. And no amount is too small, and people are in here beating each other to the different amounts. We want to thank those who topped us up to the 25. That's what we're talking about, comrades.
And also, I wanted to, because I heard that the chairman said that GoFundMe has been withholding money.
Uhuru. Yeah, I mean, the state will do what it does in order to, block access to our own resources, right? The resources of the people. And I mean, and I'm glad you raised that, because this goes right along with the 130,000 plus signatures that we had on change.org for the African Charged, genocide campaign. 130,000 signatures that many of you probably in this room signed has been wiped off the face of the internet. It can be found nowhere. So we have no way to even prove that 130,000 people plus more we know were ready to charge the US with genocide. So comrade, I appreciate you bringing that up. Go ahead.
I think, we got to make a campaign out of this as well. I have heard about GoFundMe withholding other people's funds as well. And here's the interesting thing. Why don't they just give that money back and just say, we're not going to take it? But they're going to hold people's funds, because they're holding that money because we know they're doing something with it, because of course, capitalism has always got to make money off of misery and oppression and stealing resources from people, because that's what it is. It's theft. It's theft.
It is. This is theft, and we want it all back. We want it all back. And we're going to talk even some more about some resolutions that we are trying to also push in response to these attacks. And I know I'm not even looking at the slides, because here we are saying, but I hope the people have been looking at the slides, because if you haven't been already to handsoffuhuru.org and clicked right on the homepage, you will see how to join our rapid response, our emergency rapid response. Please do so immediately. Sign up for rapid response, because if there is any further attacks on the movement, we want to be able to have a way to communicate with you immediately via text. So next slide.
Also, Zaki Barudi just said he pledges $100.
Uhuru. Right on. Thank you, Comrade Zaki Barudi. We want to appreciate you for that. Uhuru. I also want to acknowledge Betty Davis, who from the New Abolitionist Movement, who also gave a 300, and Imtambwe, who gave 100. Thank you, comrades, for just shooting up my flow. My phone is overflowing, and we got to keep this going. So I just want to really appreciate everybody who has given so far. And if I don't announce you now, we'll make sure that you do get called on, before we close today's program.
I also see that President Maximella, I believe he's just pledged $25. He says, Rage, I have 25.
Right on.
Yes.
Uhuru comrades. So if you make a pledge, thank you so much so that we can, we don't want to chase you down. We want you to just go right now to handsoffuhuru.org so that we can make that pledge a reality. We want to just appreciate everybody who is fighting to, get into this fight as well. And as you can see here up on the screen, many ways that you can support the campaign. Again, you can sign the petition, which our chat moderators will put in the chat. You can also hold a fundraiser. If you have questions about mailing a check, I just saw that in the chat, email us at info@handsoffuhuru.org, and we will get you the right information on how to mail a check if you want to mail one. So you can email us at info@handsoffuhuru.org, and somebody will give you the correct information about how to mail your check. So thank you so much for that. Next slide. Uhuru. So, Comrade Lisa Davis, I want to appreciate you being here because, we all represent like the various African fronts in our cities or in our communities. And I want to just, announce that, some of the work that we are doing, a part of this campaign, in order to continue to say hands off is resolution for sanctuary cities, for giving us an opportunity to unveil our resolution, right, to take to city councils for the adoption, calling for cities to refuse to work with and to be complicit with federal agencies that are attacking African people and African organizations based on the allegations, where you see that based on the allegations that the outcomes of the work that we are doing are actually bettering and uplifting the community. And so, we want to take these to the cities where we were attacked. We want to take these to wherever African people are being attacked, and continue to wage this fight back in every aspect of this, and to make it clear that if you stand on the side of the U.S. government, if you are complicit with these attacks, you have something to answer for. So New Jersey, get ready too. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes, definitely. Also, I just want to say, and I saw some pledges like for $5, but the chat's moving so fast, and I'm losing.
Yeah.
I thought Dennis knows. I know I saw Brother Arande. They say Brooklyn's in the house. I know he played something, but the chat people are pledging so fast.
People are fighting in the chat. Yeah, and you know what? And I can give a shout out right now to just to a few more who I see in the chat whose donations have coming through the website. I want to thank Gasso. I want to thank, again, like we said, Aisha Fields, Brendan, Nicole, John, Jamie, Christina, Raya. I want to appreciate Casey as well. Again, we have Matsamela here. So these are people who put it in the chat that they're going to pledge and that they made that donation online, so we can continue to thank you. So thank you, comrades, so much.
Robert Palmer, I believe he's from Boston. He says 200. I know Sister Betty had pledged 300.
Uhuru. Right on, comrades. This is so what's our total? Let me give you our total. Right now, we have we have raised $2,180 just over these past couple of days. We want to really salute everybody who has made this possible. Don't stop there. Share it with somebody, continue to get this word out there. We're going to move into the next few sections. So I just want to go to the next slide and just explain that other ways that you can really support this campaign. As you see here, we say you can hold a fundraiser, bake sales, benefit concerts, poetry readings. Some people have done yard sales and put all the proceeds and donated them back to the Uhuru movement, or back to the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Defense campaign. You can do paint parties, bring your skills, bring your creativity. Next slide. Uhuru, Sister Lisa Davis, you held a wonderful tour, hosting the chairman in Newark, New Jersey. We also have other comrades who have done that as well. And I just want to salute you, because this is what we are calling on the people to do, to build the 2023 Hands Off Tour. Bring the chairman, bring the unindicted 4 co-conspirators to your community today.
Oh, definitely. Also, I just wanted to say, Robert Warr Williams, he made a $25 donation.
Uhuru.
Oh,
thank you, comrade. Right on. Yes. And I see some more. I want to thank you, Robert. I want to thank AJ, Kat, Bree, Michael, And another one from Bree, who became, I want to thank those who became monthly sustainers. So we have a few people who have, united with becoming monthly sustainers. So every month they will continue to, make these donations. You can do that as well. You can choose that option on the website as well. So I want to also appreciate those who have just made it click, I'm done. Next slide. And again, follow us on our social media pages. Lisa Davis is one of our wonderful volunteers who has brought her creativity and her skills to the social media committee. I don't know if you want to say a little bit more about what that's like, but I appreciate everything that all the creativity coming out of the social media committee alone.
Well, let me just say something. With TikTok, I think TikTok tends to generate more response, but we should be following each other. We should be following Hands Off the Uhuru movement on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, but we should also make sure that we are following each other who's also a part of this movement, because that helps to build up our presence on these social media platforms. And certainly on TikTok, which seems to generate the most response, but also we know that these media platforms comes with their own contradictions and they're always doing things to undermine us and our posts and everything, and that's TikTok as well. But we are stronger than they are, and we can support each other and build, with each other. So please be sure to follow the Hands Off Uhuru movement, also the Black is Back Coalition, NPDOM, the Burning Spear. Follow all of these platforms on these social media platforms. Comment when you do follow. Comment, and then follow the people who are also commenting. This is how we help to build up our network, to build up our social media presence. And as we know, we back up social media presence with boots on the ground presence in our communities. That's very important. And I just want to say that if you're in New Jersey, in Newark, we got work to do in front of that federal building. So be prepared, get ready, get ready. We're not stopping. We're gonna hit in every way that we can.
Uhuru. Thank you, comrade. Yeah, I just really want to salute you, comrade Lisa Davis, for taking the stand, like you said, on the ground, anywhere that we can wage this fight back, really rallying the people. And I know I have many other people to thank that I probably have missed, and I just want to really appreciate everybody who has given, and I think I've gotten most, but let me just thank a few more who I see coming in terms of donations. I want to thank Karen. We have two Karens, Karen and Karen. I want to thank Comrade Rage, Matum, Renee, Nayindu. I want to also appreciate Mensa, Robert, and Jackson for your donation. So we are at $2,505. In terms of our total amount raised during this webinar and prior to, and I cannot thank the people enough for all of your support. And we're going to continue, we're going to move our agenda because I know there's other things that we want to discuss. But if you want to reach the campaign, this is how you can reach us. You can call us, you can visit our website, you can email us with any questions. So just take a screenshot of this page if you need, so you can be aware of how to contact the campaign.
Also, I just want to say Farrell Kamos, he made a pledge of $5. He said he wishes he could make more. And I just want to close with saying this. We know our community, we have struggled. And for some people, $5 is like $1,000. So whatever you can give is appreciated. And the very fact that we know that we are struggling, I know I'm struggling in terms of financially, but when we make that pledge financially in whatever way we can, it just multiplies itself because it shows our determination in that struggle. So your $5 pledge is appreciated. Even if it was 50 cents, it is appreciated because we're building a move. We got a world to build. We're going to change this one, turn this system, because we got to win, and we will. And we'll be free.
Yeah, I appreciate that because, when we are free, that $5, do you know what African people can do with $5? You know what I'm saying? So we have to understand that any little bit we will take now to help wage this fight back, and nothing is too little, nothing too big. So thank you, Lisa, for raising that as well. And we just have a few more donations that I want to call out before we move on to our next section. We are going to hear from our Legal Defense Support Committee. This is the committee that is responsible for helping to bring in and to recruit lawyers and also legal assistants and paralegals. So you will hear from the coordinator of that committee. So I want to also thank MQ. I want to thank Pharaoh, as we said, and I want to thank Mira or Marissa, and I also want to thank Paul Caritas for your donation. So somebody just put in the chat, fist up, fight back, and I think that that's the best way for us to wrap up this section. And I want to thank Comrade Lisa Davis for your support. It's always great to have you here, Comrade. And so continue to donate to this legal fund. You know, it's really important that we can build this legal fund, comrades. We need lawyers. And as we said, it's not just going to be the unindicted four, there might be more. And we want to be able to really fight back. And I also see here Charles Barron and Inez Barron want to make donations of $1,000. Thank you so much for bringing that to my attention. And thank you, comrades, for that contribution. As we said, nothing is too large or too little, and we take it all. So we thank you, comrades. And I'm going to turn it over to, as we close out this section.
May I just say one more? Makaria Supataris is saying she's trying to donate, or he or she, I'm sorry if I misidentified you, but they're trying to donate and that there's a glitch. So I just want to make you aware of that. $23. Thank you.
23. Okay,
Yes.
Thank you, comrade. I'll make sure that we follow up with that. Thank you, Lisa, for that. Right on. Thank you, comrade, for that announcement. And if anyone else is having trouble, please put it in the chat as well. You can email, you can text the panelists as well. So I'm going to bring up Chimarenga Selembao, who is our coordinator for the Legal Defense Support Committee. Shortly after this, we're going to hear some statements, and then we're going to open it up with, media, a section with that and our question and answers. So I want to thank those who have been putting their questions in the chat, who are ready to engage. And I don't know if Comrade Chimarenga is up, but I'm trying to move my screen to see. And if you are up, then I will introduce you to, talk to the people about the importance of this Legal Defense Support Committee. So, Uhuru. All right, comrades.
Uhuru. Thank you, Mwezi.
Uhuru. All right, the floor is yours.
Uhuru and Mwezi.
Uhuru, can you hear me? Can you
I
hear
appreciate
me?
it.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I think there's just a delay.
You can hear me?
I'm going to
Good.
stop talking and you go ahead and you take it away, comrade. Uhuru.
Okay. I appreciate that. So I want to thank the chairman for that great segue into the political explanation for why this attack even occurred and the long history of work of the African People's Socialist Party and on the question of reparations, the question of U.S. genocide against African people. The chairman has more than a 50-year history of fighting for the liberation of African people. That's why they attacked us. That's why they attacked the African People's Socialist Party. So as the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa campaign, my name is Chimarenga Selembao. I am the chair of the Legal Defense Support Committee. Mwezi gave a little bit of an explanation of what we do. We are going to do a lot of legal research, what we call Freedom of Information Act requesting Freedom of Information Act requests about these so-called investigations that's been going on for decades, to show that this is nothing new, what they're trying to do now. We also want to thank all the lawyers who are stepping forward, the ones that are in the privileged group of lawyers and all the other lawyers who are helping us move this forward. This is a fight that's going to be won out in the streets, in your house, where you can jump on board. It's more than lawyers. You can be your neighbor next. You can call your neighbor next door, paralegals, law students,
Oh, I think we lost your sound. Comrades, it might just be me, but I think we might have lost sound from Chimarenga. Okay, yes. So Chimarenga, I don't know if you can hear me. And I know you are just giving us some more information about how to join this committee. Perhaps if you close your camera, you can, maybe the sound will be more clear in terms of the connection. Okay, so I can be heard, but just not Chimarenga. So let's try that again. Okay, and go ahead and speak. If you are speaking, we
Is it
cannot
better now?
hear you. Yes, that helps. That helps. Go ahead. So the
Okay.
last thing you were
All
just
right.
getting into like who we want in the campaign. You were saying lawyers.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, lawyers, law students, paralegals, and your neighbor next door. We want everybody to come into the Legal Defense Support Committee. You don't have to have any legal skills, but if you're interested in that part of this fight back, that campaign, please, you can go to handsoffahuru.org, or you can call us at 727-914-3617. Let us know that you're interested, and we'll get you on board coming to those meetings. Our next meeting is January 4th at 6:30 p.m. Those are virtual meetings, so please put that on your schedule to be a part of those meetings. We want everybody to come in this committee because we're going to defeat this colonial capitalist attack on the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement. So please give us a call, 914-727-914-3617, or you can go to the handsoffahuru.org and let us know, yes, I want to join the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Legal Defense Support Committee. Uhuru.
now let me unmute.
You're on mute.
There we go.
Yeah, you're on mute.
Thank you so much, Chimarenga, for that overview of this committee. I'm just really grateful that you were able to come on and speak to that, because like you said, bring your neighbor. We want everybody to join this fight back. And the number that Chimarenga just gave, he can put that in the chat, but you can also call the other main campaign number, and we will make sure that it gets to the Legal Defense Support Committee as well, so that we can really get you connected immediately. And I do want to just, before we move on to our next section, where we will bring on some very special guests who are here with us today, I want to just acknowledge, just to clarify, that when you make a donation today, you go to handsoffahuru.org/donate. GoFundMe was mentioned earlier. You do not donate there. That is not where we are asking you to put any of your resources towards this campaign. You go to our website. That is the official way to support this fight back, handsoffahuru.org/donate. And it will take you directly to the area where our donations are being counted. So I want to just appreciate everybody for that. And we do have some more donors. I want to thank Macaria, I hope I pronounced your name correctly, and Elise, and Onazaneya Shatella as well for your donations. And we are continuing to climb, comrades. We are at $2,795 in donations. And I just want to say this is very inspiring, because this is showing the power of the people, as we said, to make it clear to the FBI, to the US government, that the people are behind this fight back. So thank you so much. So next up, we're going to hear from, as you have heard us mention, many of our supporters throughout this entire fight back, who have been supporters of the movement even before this attack happened. Many of them who we can't have on in this particular section, but we are excited to really appreciate and bring on Assembly Alderperson Jesse Todd of St. Louis, Missouri. And we also want to thank Charles and bring on Charles and Inez Barron of New York. Charles, who is a city council person as well. And those comrades will be up on here with us soon. And the chairman, we just want to really appreciate and invite them on to give an opportunity for a solidarity statement and to explain why supporting this campaign and this fight back is essential. So I see Brother Charles Barron just popped up there. Good to see you, Brother Charles Barron, for making it here with us. Yes. And I'm having some screen problems so I can see everybody. There we go. Alderperson Jesse Todd, thank you for joining us. We're glad to have you here with us as well. So I'll turn it over to you, comrades, and we will start with Brother Charles Barron. Thank you for being here. And why are you here? Tell us that.
I'm here because I'm excited. We are winning. And we should not be disillusioned by any attacks like that. Now, if y'all just bear with me for a minute, I do believe in African Black liberation theology. As a matter of fact, the chairman did a nice piece on Jesus Christ, the revolutionary. So I feel comfortable saying that I believe in the Black revolutionary Messiah, Jesus Christ, not the pie in the sky and we got to be cool and somebody's going to come down and fix this for us. But the reason I mentioned that, because in the Bible, they said, no weapon formed against us shall prosper, because we're doing the right thing. In addition to that, you know, Jesus said, I come not to bring peace, but a sword. And matter of fact, Jesus even said, sell your garment, purchase a sword, and follow me. That's the Jesus I believe in. And I believe it has a base in Africa. So when I thought of this, and you know, God said, you may have meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. A whole lot of good is going to come out of it. First of all, we're going to win, whether it's in the court, in the streets. We are going to win. And I don't want anybody to have any second thoughts, any thought of retreat, any fear, any stress, anxiety. I know that comes along with the struggle, but we are going to win. And we're going to win because we're right. We're going to win because we have spine. We're going to win because we've been here before. In the Black Panther Party, which I was honored to be a member of, I remember the Panther 21. They charged them with wanting to blow up botanical gardens, a garden in Brooklyn, and wanted to blow up stuff unheard of. And my good friend, very close friend, Afeni Shakur, defended the Panther 21, and they won. They won. All 21 won. So we're used to that kind of thing. The only thing I caution us for, some of this is to divert our money and attention to fundraising for defenses. That's what they did with the Panthers. You know, all the money we were doing for the free breakfast programs and all the health programs across the country and the survival packages and money for all kinds of stuff now had to be diverted. Free the Panther 21, free the New Haven 8, free the San Francisco 6. They're not doing this time. We're going to keep that basketball court going. We're going to keep the gardens going. We're going to keep all of the real estate that owner went to St. Louis and helped us secure. We're going to keep putting money into that. So Inez and I gave 1,000 of each today, but that's just the beginning, because we're going to look at funding and helping to support those projects as well as doing the defense stuff. We can't let them take us off our path to victory, because we're winning. And capitalism is dying, colonialism is dying all across the world. So my brothers and sisters, this is a shining moment. Chairman, I wish I could share some of the pain with you, but you know I'm with you, man. And you're gonna win. And what I love about you, Chairman is not just a comrade in struggle for me. We become friends. Ona and Inez and the chairman and myself, we become friends. And so I always tell people, you know, we're straight brothers. We're married and straight, but we do love each other. You know, Ona heard us saying, man, I really love you, man. I really love you too, Chairman. She said, what's going on in there with all this love? But it ain't nothing but some comrade love. And I'm excited because we're going to win. And I want to say this about Akili. That's a special sister. You know, a young, dynamic, special sister. And I'm so pissed at them for messing with her. You almost want to say, I'll leave that alone, but just for messing with her alone, you almost want to say, you know, bring it, you know, we got something for you. But they are messing with this sister who ran for a city council race in St. Petersburg, Florida. She wasn't running for president of the United States, and the Russians interfered with her presidential candidate. Which candidacy? We're talking about, you know, a city council seat. So it just goes to show sometimes you think what you're doing is insignificant. Sometimes we think, oh man, you know, we're just a little old organization. We're really not making the inroads into revolution. That kind of rhetoric and romantic stuff. Come on, now how you're gonna beat the big capitalist system of America, the big military might of America? But look what those punks are doing. A little organization like ours, how come those punks are coming down on us like that if we're so irrelevant, if we're so insignificant? What you doing messing with us? How much money do we have? We're trying to raise a couple of $1,000s. You got trillions and you got all kinds of military stuff. But you know what? Huey Newton said it well. The spirit of the people is always greater than the technology of man. And they know our spirit is right. When they came after the Panthers, they came after the free breakfast food more than the guns.
Yes.
Because they knew that in the children, we were planting the seeds of revolution in the minds of our children. So J. Edgar Hoover said, hey, we got to stop that free breakfast program. I don't worry about the guns. Let's get that food away from them children so they can stop raising the consciousness of their people. So I shouldn't be this excited because we are under attack and people are going through stuff. But the excitement is that this is a sign that we're winning. We're winning. And they know it. And our chairman links Africa, links the Caribbean, links places in Europe, links 30, 40 states in the United States. And all of it is consistent with African internationalism. All of it is consistent with our interpretation of the Black road to socialism or the Black roots of socialism. So where else can you get this kind of attention? I want to almost say thank you. Now more people in the world is knowing who we are. And once we beat them in court, because we will, because they don't have anything, but once we beat them in court, the cost to them is going to be 1,000 more revolutionaries born, 1,000 more revolutionaries involved in the movement. That is going to be their defeat. In every misfortune, there's a fortune to be found. And there's a big time fortune to be found. Chairman's been all over the place. People in New York, Viola Plummer, the December 12th movement, they said, Chairman, she said she got your back, front, and side. So the whole December 12th movement said, Charles, just, you know, say a word or two for us. We'll do whatever fundraising, whatever has to be done. D12 is down with you, brother. And so is Operation Power. And so is A.T. Mitchell and all the brothers that you met when you came to New York. And I told them all about this. We are all down with you. So we say, Uhuru, we are winning. Inevitably, we will win. The struggle continues. Straight ahead.
Uhuru.
Wow. Thank you so much, Councilperson Charles Barron. Chairman, I know you may have a few to say, and I want to just acknowledge we also have Alderperson Jesse Todd, but I just want to really appreciate what you said, comrade and brother Charles Barron, for that statement. You know, you brought up fear. And one thing the chairman has said, you know, and has stated is that fear is normal, right? But we can't be immobilized by our fear. And I just really want to appreciate the importance of that. And like you said, we don't have the bombs and we don't have drones and we can't, you know, break down your house at 5 a.m., but we have the power of organization. And so you're seeing right here is the power of organization, the power of the people. And we are bringing, as we said, all fronts, not just by where you are located, but by what you believe at your core, that I want to see ourselves in this new world. And here we are leading the way to what that might look like. So just want to appreciate that. And Alderperson Jesse Todd, so thank you so much, Councilperson Charles Barron, and we hope you will stay with us during this program. Thank you so much. And Alderperson Jesse Todd, we cannot say enough about you too, bro. This is a lifetime member of Impedum. This is somebody who has been on the ground with us in St. Louis, Missouri. Comrade Zaki Baruti, who is also not here, is your sidekick as well. We just want to appreciate you for being here. I know there's a little issue with the sound, so we can resolve that, you know, somehow, I'm sure. And I think it might be coming from, there we go. Okay, so I'll unmute, and then Jesse Todd, when you go ahead and speak, we'll see how the sound goes. I think there's some complications with the sound, but I want to just turn it over to you. Tell us why you're here, and we just want to really salute you for being there since day one in a city like St. Louis.
Uhuru comrades, first of all, let me say I'm here because our movement, as you know, I'm using our because I am a lifetime member of our movement. I'm here because, first of all, our people, we're winning. We have the only plan that is going to free African people. I've been in the movement since I was a teenager, and the Black Power movement, and worked with all the Black groups, including the Black Panthers. And so the point is that we are winning. We have the leadership. The FBI are attacking our programs. They know that when we have programs like the doula program and all our businesses, all our basketball court, just the whole program, the sincerity of our members, the commitment from our members. They know that we are planting seeds, we are spreading the word, and that is the biggest fear that the government has, is the fear of the truth. We are just telling the truth as to what is happening. And so I'm here as to support our movement. I will continue to support our movement. We will win this false charges will be beaten, and we will be stronger after these charges. So that's why I'm here. I'm here to support our group. I also salute our comrade Charles Barron. I unite with everything he said, so I'm not going to repeat this. I unite with everything he said. So I want to just say Uhuru to everybody. I support our movement 100%, and we will win this struggle. Uhuru.
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 Yes, we are winning and we will win. Thank you. Thank you, Alderperson Jesse Todd, who, as we said, has really stood, against some forces that, claim to be for the African community. And we have Jesse Todd, who has taken up a stance, and we mentioned some of the other resolutions and things that we were putting forward first, and you will continue to see this brother standing on the right side. So I want to appreciate that. And Chairman, I don't know if you have anything to say before we move to the next section.
Thank you, Chairwoman Mweze. The only thing I want to say is you referenced it, but part of our fight back includes taking a resolution to city councils throughout this country, and sometimes to larger governmental organizations. And just like a movement was initiated that resulted in the creation of sanctuary cities, where local governments refused to participate with the federal government in carrying out the kicking people out of the country, and this whole so-called illegal alien crush in St. Petersburg and in St. Louis. The St. Louis and the police departments worked with the FBI. I mentioned how they came with Keeley to knock on her door, the St. Petersburg Police Department, and they collaborated in every instance. And we know that Comrade Charles Barron right there in New York. And in New York, that's going to be extremely powerful because the location of New York and the role that it has played in terms of information as an information center, and also as a force that where you see emulation coming a lot based on that. And then here in St. Louis, Comrade Jesse Todd, who is on the board of alderperson, they are going to take before the board of aldermen or alderpersons here in St. Louis and the city council in New York, resolutions that would prohibit the local police organizations working with the FBI and other federal agencies that are attacking any African person or organization under the basis of of their working to support African people. You got to remember, they haven't charged us with robbery, kidnapping, bribery, or anything like that. The thing is that everything they charged us around, and the whole attack is based on the work that we have done historically. So, and then we're looking at trying to make that happen in St. Petersburg, and hopefully people who are in this meeting, who have influence, and even hopefully Charles Barron and others who can contact politicians. I know December 12th was responsible right out of the gate in press conference that also had, I think it was an assemblyman, a New York assemblyman who came out and supported our stance. And I think that even if we can get New York, take it, put it, they don't have to pass it, but get it on the back, get it on the calendar, get it as a part of the discussion on the agenda in the state assemblies and also in city councils and city government. So that's part of what it is that we're doing. And I think that I really think it can be extremely powerful because we've seen, like in St. Louis, for example, there was a young man named Darren Seals, who was here when I was involved in the fight back against the murder of Mike Brown by the police department. And he was an activist here. And we learned that he died a very mysterious and brutal death, cars burned and things like that. Then we learned lately that the FBI had collected 900 pages on him. And that's just from the Mike Brown struggle that he was involved in. So there is a basis for that. And we got to remember that St. Louis is the place of the Dred Scott decision. And of course, Dred Scott, as you know, was the African who assumed that he could come and in Missouri and achieve freedom from slavery. And of course, they didn't do that. And what we want to tell the city of St. Louis through our resolution is that you got to break from that history, break from that past, and not cooperate with the feds and other places who would come looking to employ the Dred Scott decision in 2022, 2023. And so in New York, the history is rife. Malcolm X, all kinds of forces who have been assassinated and haunted, Marcus Garvey, et cetera. We give them an opportunity to break from that legacy and refuse to participate with efforts by the federal government to attack Black individuals and organizations whose efforts that they want to criminalize associated with the struggle for freedom. And of course, I can't, the Pamphlet 21, all the Black Liberation Army forces who fell and some of whom are still in prison today. So those are the kinds of things that we want to take these resolutions, and Charles Barron and Jesse Todd have already agreed that they're going to do this. And we're working on language for the resolutions and things like that. And we're looking at St. Petersburg, Florida, and wherever else we can make this happen. And hopefully with the assistance of people like Charles Barron, December 12th, and Viola Plummer, who I've worked with for, I don't know, 60 something, it's been so long ago that my dementia allows it to escape my memory. But anyway, that's the kind of stuff that we want to do. So I just wanted to mention that. And that was one of the reasons it's really important for Charles and Jesse to be here as well, to be standing up as an example. That's one of the things I've appreciated about them as examples of what Black politicians can do if they have the courage and if they have an inclination to work truly for the freedom of Black people. Thank you, Uhuru.
Can I say something?
I see Brother Charles Barron wants to.
Yeah, I just wanted to say to that, Chairman, you can rest assured there's going to be a resolution in New York. That's going to happen. We just finished a Cuban resolution, and to stop the embargo and stop the travel ban, brought the Cuban ambassador to my office, and we got 18 members of the council to sign on to the resolution. So I'm sure if we can get 18, on the Cuban resolution, once we get this thing going, we're going to have a press conference to announce that it's going to be submitted. And then I have a good relationship with the chair of the committee that it needs to go to. We're going to get ourselves a hearing and get as many on board as possible so that we can push this thing forward, because New York City, remember, and when I was in the assembly, we got the Black, Latino, and Asian caucus to sign on to free and Herman Bell.
Yes.
And Seth Hayes and Jalil Montague. So if they could do that, that was more challenging than this. I mean,
yes.
I had to
yes.
convince them that, you know, yeah, some police lost their life, but they did their time and blah, 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 blah. That was even more challenging. This should be a no-brainer in Sanctuary City.
Yeah, right on. Splendid.
Right on. So there you have it. You will see and you will hear more about this. And I just really want to appreciate Brother Charles Barron and Jesse Todd, Brother Jesse Todd, for being here. Thank you, Chairman, for your statements as well. And just want to read in the chat, Jesse Todd, somebody said Jesse Todd is in the lion's den, and that's real, but he's fighting back. I just want to acknowledge that one. And someone, when you were speaking, Charles Barron, they also mentioned that, you know, the state is in panic mode. They're in retreat mode. And their retreat looks like a really serious fight back. And so we have to look at it like that too. And finally, Chairman, somebody said that your memory is just fine, Chairman, and it's actually very powerful. So just wanted to say that as well. So Uhuru comrades, we're going to move on to our next section here, where we're actually going to get a chance to hear from bold sister that Charles Barron mentioned earlier, Director Akile Anayi, who leads the information technology and education and the public relations and social media aspects of this campaign. She's going to give us a chance to acknowledge anybody that we have here that is present in today's meeting, who we might have an opportunity to ask and hear from in regards to media. So Director Akile, I will bring you up. Also here with me as well. And after this, everybody, we will be having a chance to talk and have some questions and answers. So please put your questions and answers in the chat so we can go ahead and get those answered as well. And just give me one moment. And here she comes. There we go. With freedom on her mind. Yes.
Yes. Uhuru, thank you, Chair Mwezi. And I've been sitting here listening and just, you know, being a part of this incredible event. And I just want to salute everybody, all these incredible statements, the support that has been flooding in, you know, which is part of what makes this whole thing, you know, something that they're very nervous about. The colonial state, something they're very nervous about because of just the overwhelming amount of support and the people who are committed to fighting them, you know, and as we've mentioned, we're going to fight them on all fronts. And so I'm representing the Info Ed Tech Committee because part of our response is going to be how we're able to define this whole struggle. And we have to understand that the colonial state isn't, you know, works with its own media to be able to paint the picture, to be able to define the problem, and to try to control, as the chairman said, you know, is trying to, you know, create this fear, this panic, you know, within the masses of people, you know, trying to isolate the party, trying to lump the party into these other struggles that it has going on. And we have to define the narrative. We have to say, this is what the struggle is about, that it's an attack on Black people under the color of the law, you know, using Russia as the banner for them making an attack on the Black liberation movement. This part we have to be able to explain, we have to articulate. And as soon as indictments rain down, we have to be able to move into a place where we are blasting this out on all fronts, and not just, you know, saying indictments have come, but to say, now you need to come to the next action. You have to donate to the bail fund to generate that support, and just the intolerability, if that's a word, of you know, them putting their hands on this movement, on the rights of Black people to be able to struggle for our freedom, however this happens. But, you know, to be able to say that this, you know, cannot happen. This cannot happen. The colonial state cannot intervene and cannot, you know, smother the rights, you know, the so-called, the basic democratic rights of African people, you know. So this is what we have to be able to do from beginning to end. And that can only happen if we have a very strong apparatus, media apparatus. And so I want to acknowledge the media forces who, as soon, as this thing happened, jumped, into being able to talk about what really happened, and were supportive of, because again, media represent, they say unbiased, non-biased journalism and stuff like that. We know that's a lie, that, the media has a specific objective and agenda, and it depends on who you work for. And the media, the people's media, came out in droves in support of the party and the Uhuru movement during this attack, and had the chairman and other leaders throughout our movement on their platforms to be able to explain this is what happened, and that this is what they are saying, and this is how we're able to just debunk all of that, even before we come to the conclusion that an indictment is to come down. So I just want to thank those forces, including some of the forces we have on right now, Comrade Betty Davis and Ralph Pointer, and WBA and all, WBAI, Comrade Marsha Coleman Adebayo and Dr. Julianne Robertson, also Black Agenda Report, Margaret Kimberly. We have Alternative Black News and Nyota Uhuru on. Just want to appreciate this sister as well. And again, all of the other media forces, that were at the ready to talk about this, to hold press conference, to write about it in your online or print journal, put us on the podcast or your radio platforms, anything that's available to us. We need that, right now in this moment. And so, and just like we're talking about, we have an emergency, a rapid response. You sign up, you get the text alerts, and okay, this is what's happening, this is what to do. We have the same kind of process going for media as well. And I believe we have a presentation. I just, maybe I needed to intro it, but we can, get it up just to show all of the ways in which, we're calling on you to participate. So we have we're building a public relations network that we want all the friendly media forces to be a part of, and media forces throughout the world, because this is an attack on the whole of Africa, the African world, and Africans around the world have been watching this campaign and, have been and outraged about what it is that has happened to their movement. And so, if you have, again, a podcast, print or online, radio or journal, social media platforms, all of these tools that can be weaponized to our advantage. We have the on the ground, we have the, the virtual, and, all of these different fronts that we're going to be waging this campaign on. So if you are somebody, or somebody who has access to these platforms, we want you to be a part of the public relations network, this effort. So if we can go to the next slide. So the public relations team's responsibilities would be media outreach to the different platforms, traditional media content creation, writing articles, PSAs, and long-form radio documentaries, social media content creation, video clips, infographics, memes, social media posting, engagement, and mining of the comments, and looking for those supporters in those comments and bringing them to the Hands Off Uhuru campaign. So these are just some of the responsibilities of the public relations team. Next. All right, so our rapid mobilization plan in case of indictments. So we have an action plan. This is how we're going to be preparing for it. So one, we're going to be drafting our press notices and our statements, ensuring all available media contact info is in the database, recruit and train members who will be on call to immediately reach out to media on day of indictments, and design social media content for immediate posting in case of indictments. Also finalizing press notices for press conferences and press statements. And we want press conferences definitely to happen in St. Petersburg, Florida, and in St. Louis, Missouri, where attacks happen. But you can organize a press conference just like our comrades December 12th did in New York when this happened. So you can also organize a press conference. There can be press conferences happening throughout the world to denounce the FBI attacks against the Uhuru movement. Email to all media contacts. Call top 100 media contacts to get press, TV, and radio coverage and book interviews, post announcements and social media content to all platforms, hold press conferences, I mentioned, at the Uhuru houses in St. Louis and St. Petersburg and elsewhere. And after press conferences, issue our press statement to all media and submit to all self-submission sites. So join the public relations team. Again, if you're a radio show host, a producer, journalist, reporter, blogger, YouTube host and commentator, video and audio editor, graphic designers, illustrators, writers, proofreaders, PR reps, phone bankers, data entry, like all of these forces we need. And if you are just, you have an interest in these areas but you don't have a platform, it doesn't matter. You can join this committee in these different aspects and help to put out the word. We can, do some hot house fashion training in some of these areas and things like that. But the more hands, the merrier in terms of getting the word out and keeping this in front of the people. And again, being able to define what this really is, being able to control the narrative of this case. And that's it. All right. So again, so we see the different ways, and you can put in the chat, if you're interested in being a part of this rapid response from the public relations team, if you have any of those skills, or if this is just a committee area of work that interests you, please let us indicate that in the chat so we can follow up with you. And I also just want to shout out and mention in closing that we have an upcoming interview. I'll be on Mobali Mokasi, which is a show that reaches Africans in these French-speaking territories, these colonies that France has created in Africa. And so speaking to the African world, and again particularly in French, but this show is called the Mobali Mokasi Show. The theme of the discussion is no compromise, no surrender. I also want to shout out Comrade Shiboy, who is the translator for this show, who's also on with us today. So want to salute Comrade Shiboy. And that this show is December 25th, this Sunday, and it's at 2 p.m. Eastern time. That's 7 p.m. in France. And so kind of doing some time conversion there. But again, 2 p.m. Eastern time this Sunday, no compromise, no surrender on Mobali Mokasi. And Mobali Mokasi is another platform that, has been extended to us, that have done interviews before and subsequent the attacks on the Uhuru movement. And so, we just appreciate being able to talk to the whole African world about, this attack, because all of Africa, everywhere it is we've been dispersed, is getting organized, is coming to the conclusion that the colonizer and colonialism cannot exist and cannot remain over our lives anymore. That's happening throughout the world, and that's what's driving this profound crisis that would result in a July 29th attack against the African People's Socialist Party in the first place. So just want to salute again these incredible forces, the leadership of this campaign, Chair Mwezi, and my leadership, Chairman Amalia Shatella, Uhuru comrades. We will win. We are winning. Hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa. Thank you.
Uhuru. Wow. Thank you, Comrade Director Akile, for that powerful presentation and just call to action. There are so many ways that we can get involved. And I just want to really salute you, Comrade, because you're on the front lines. You're helping to lead this fight back and helping to mobilize the people. And just really want to salute everything that you said in that presentation about the about how creative and how dynamic this whole fight back can continue to look. And yes, please, on December 25th, the times can be repeated and put back into the chat. The Mobali Mokasi Show, you will hear Director Akile speaking to the African nation, to the world on this great platform. So I do want to just acknowledge that we have some people that we want to bring on who are very important players in the aspect of this fight back. We have some of our legal representation who is joining us today here on this in this meeting. And I really do want to take a moment to welcome Leonard Goodman and Life Malcolm, who are some of the, thank you, comrades, who are some of the legal representation, some of the lawyers, the attorneys that are helping us to wage this fight back. So I want to bring them on and have them joining us as we are, moving into the Q&A. And Chairman, I will also bring you up as well if you do want to, contribute anything to this section. There we go. I see you, Leonard, as well. And we just really want to stress again the importance of the legal fight back. And as we said, this will be won in more than one places. And so I'm going to just stop there. And there you go, Chairman, I see you on. And we will try to get Life on as well. I think there was some technical difficulties there. But and this might just lead us into our Q&A as well. So thank you, Leonard, for joining us. And there we go, Chairman, you might be unmuted now. But Chairman, if you want to just talk about the importance of what this means for us in the courtroom and with the legal representation that we have with us today.
Yeah, thank you very much, Comrade Mwezi, and welcome, Leonard, or as we would say in Tree in Ghana, Akwaba. I think that one of the most complicated and tasks that we always have and have had historically in terms of attacks on our movement has been the question of lawyers. Because part of what the government does is take away like the democratic space that Black people fought for. When they charge the Russians with hiring us to participate in elections, Black people died and churches were bombed, and no one has worked harder for the ability to participate in elections in this country than Africans. No one, bar none. Nobody was like killed and what have you in that process. And so Africans were. And as I mentioned earlier, even I, participated in that. So, but what happens is if they can deny us like the democratic space to carry out a movement in the open, then they will attempt to push us underground and to push us into preemptive acts, rash acts, so that we don't have any option. We can't take this out to the masses of the people. They block us from doing that. They make even talking to our people illegal. They make doing that through the thing that we fought for, Black people fought. The whole issue of democracy in this country was forged by the struggles. The definition of democracy was forged in this country with Black blood and what have you. So if they can take away that ability for us to use that space that we fought for, then they can determine how we move in a fashion that sets us up sometimes to be wiped out. And by that, I mean that we need to be able, as Black people, to determine the method of struggle that we're going to be used at any given time. And we cannot allow them to separate us from our people by driving us prematurely underground or something to that effect. So I just wanted to say that. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Yeah, I just would like to add, I'm honored to be part of this struggle. I'm honored to represent leaders of the movement and of the party in this struggle. I agree with Chairman Yeshitela that the allegations that they've made and that we are preparing for, that these folks are controlled by Russia, are false and observed and will be defeated in court. But I also would stress that when you're targeted by the federal government with its unlimited resources, it's a serious matter. And it's really heartening to see all of these people sign on and all of the support that you all have in your respective communities and around the country. So I just want to congratulate you all and thank everybody for the support that these folks are going to need for this struggle. Thank you.
Uhuru, Leonard.
Yeah, Uhuru, Leonard, just want to really appreciate that that solidarity, but this, in the courtroom and what that looks like. And just really want to say that, yes, this is an empowering moment for us to see that this is, that we can be one, to this understanding and that we are winning. So I just want to thank you so much, Leonard, for joining us. Our other lawyer, we're having some issues with them coming back onto the call. So we will, again, you will be hearing more from the whole legal defense team as well at some point or another. So we're going to go ahead and start taking some questions. There are a lot of questions, and we have a brief question and answer period, but I know we do have many questions, so I will do my best to get to as many as we can during this period. So Chairman, I don't know if you can see any of the questions on the Zoom, but I'm going to just kind of go through some that we have on this end, and we'll field it out. And we have other panelists who are on this call, so if you hear a question that you do want to address, please do. So I will start here with, this is not a question so much, but it is a comment. This is by Paul Caritis. I just want to open this up. Just in the opening statements, he did make the call that I have to say that the response from the left in the US has been pretty weak. And I mean, where there is solidarities from, all these other groups, I don't see much. And this was a fascist attack by the FBI, he says, and it could happen to any left group simply because they are fascist or they hate the left. And so he said, you better wake up, just my opinion, Uhuru. So yeah, just really want to appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think what Paul has recognized is that the whole democratic question is concentrated in the struggle of Black people. And that if they are coming for us, in fact, so many people in this country today, white people as well, are concerned about the intrusion by the FBI, federal government in their lives. Some of them are characterized as right-wing and reactionary. But the point is that all of them need to learn that everything that you see happening, these attacks, this FBI work is concentrated, that the struggle for democracy is concentrated in the Black struggle. And that you have to take a stance around here. If you're concerned about what the FBI is doing to you, the platform for them getting to you was Black people, indigenous people, Mexicans, etc. Thank you.
Yes, right on, Chairman Uhuru. Yeah, I unite, and I just want to even just say some of the other comments that we see here are, from the Los Angeles Hands Off Cuba, saying that we need to work together. We should bring in Carlos Lazo from Seattle, who was targeted by the FBI. Everybody is saying that we need to make this a formidable fight back, all the people together. So I want to thank you, Mark Friedman, for your comment as well. We also have here a question from Sadia Ajanaku.
Excuse me, Comrade Mwezi. I think that, we've been talking about that for a while ourselves. The comrades in Puerto Rico attacked because of their association with Cuba, what have you. We need to take that to some practical place. And I'm suggesting that the comrades who just got in touch with you, and of course, the other comrades, we should pull something together to give some practical content to this recognition that this is an attack on every damn, and the colonized in particular. And that's the critical question that many people refuse to recognize. And one of the reasons there are issues with the left, because the left would fight like hell against racism, which is fighting against ideas in their heads. But they won't fight too often for the struggle of African people to have our own freedom and self-determination. So I just wanted to comment on that, and that we have to make that practical. And I'm hoping that you and your staff can move toward consolidating this and pulling more people together in this process.
Uhuru, Chairman. Yeah, I unite. So we do have to make that a concrete thing. It's clear that we know who the enemy is, and we know how they see us as well. So there are some other questions here in the chat, Chairman, that just were, I think maybe weren't aware that we do have legal representation and that we need more. So it's not just the thing of having 2, 3, or 4 lawyers for the unindicted 4. We need it for all. So I just want to say that, and that one of the questions was asked is, were we not prepared for this action or for this attack? We've been prepared for this. And the reason why the African People's Socialist Party was even founded was to complete the revolution of the 1960s, which through the state program of COINTELPRO, completely wiped out and took out our leaders, as Chairman said, forced us underground, slandered our leaders, poisoned. There are so many ways in which this program tried to wipe out the African Revolution. And so the party was built in the ashes of that. And so we've been prepared for this. And this is not the only attack or the first attack. And there are many ways in which this is just the US government making it open and very public about how they feel about people who are fighting on the right side of the question. So just want to say that. Uhuru. So there's another question here from Curtis Murphy. So he has 2 questions. He says, the first question, the court has to answer to the writ of habeas corpus, which means why do they have the body of Uhuru? They will claim Uhuru voluntarily agreed to follow the Constitution, civilian authority, and military authority when to do so. And I don't know if I'm reading this question correctly, so you may have to restate your question, Curtis.
I think the question is a criticism based on our presumed connection to the whole legal system and the Constitution of the United States, and that we're going to. I think that's what it is. I think that what it represents. And the fact of the matter is that African people have been forcibly dispersed all around the world. And there is such a thing that's called state power. And state power, of course, is the capacity of a government to be able to exercise a monopoly on violence to protect the status quo. It is this court system itself, the whole court system. It is the prisons, it's the police, the FBI, the military forces, and also that's hardship, and also your school system, the state. The state is the entity that's responsible for that. So if you have a colonial state, a state that was built in the process of colonizing and dominating African and other peoples around the world, then that's what you have to deal with on one level. That's one aspect of the struggle that we've always been involved in. I mean, but we are smart enough to recognize, and I hope our lawyers get this as well, because Nat Turner, I think that was 1831, when Nat Turner rose up to try to lead Black people to freedom from Virginia, he was finally captured, and then he was taken to trial. He was put on trial, 1831, where Africa, that's the 35 years before, if I'm not mistaken, before the legal end of slavery in this country. And so he was captured, an enslaved person, a person who tried, the crime he committed was trying to be free. They put him on trial and they convicted him for that. And the fact of the matter is, even if he had won the case, which was absolutely impossible. In fact, when they said you're guilty, he said, I don't feel guilty. You know, and the fact is that even if he had won the case, he still wouldn't have been free because he was African colonized in America and enslaved. He would have gone right back to the plantation. So this is the contradiction that America is dealing with. On the one hand, it promotes this whole notion about democracy and freedom and it being the beacon for freedom all around the world on the one hand. On the other hand, it has to find a way to justify killing, oppressing, murdering Black people. And so what they do is make the struggle to get free against the law. So they're saying we are governed by rules of law. So if you try to break out of slavery, you broke the law. If you try to get reparations, you broke the law. If you want to protest the genocide against Black people, you broke the law. We don't have to answer the question of whether genocide is happening. You broke the law by even pushing this kind of thing forward. So that's the kind of thing that we're up against. So in terms of this comrade saying that we're using the presumption here on my part, of course, that somehow there's something wrong with us going through this process. The fact of the matter is this process takes us to the people, and it also deepens and raises the contradiction when we're not the only person in the world, and that the fact is that this government in part is having to attack us because white people in this country are saying there's something wrong with the government too. And so there's a whole issue of fracturing in the whole basic colonial society that's occurring, and they would sweep us in to this process to cure their problem. And we are part of the problem anytime you try to fight for freedom. But that's one of the things that makes this committee so important. We have to make the point that Black people have a right to be free, and that there's nowhere in hell you're gonna lump us in with Trump and January 6th. The people in January 6th and Trump, they have problems they recognize perhaps that they have to solve, but this attack on Black people has been going on forever. That's how we got here. We got here as a consequence of an attack on Black people. But Joe Biden, quoting Karl Marx, said that was the original sin that gave birth to the whole damn system. Uhuru. I'm gonna back off now. Can't hear you. You're muted.
I'm muted. There we go. And just thank you, Chairman. And just to reiterate or just even clarify that question, I appreciate what you raised. And this person has even asked, how will we organize our, strategy to deal with this indictment and how can I join the team? So we've already answered that. And I want to appreciate that question, Curtis. So yes, you can go to handsoffuhuru.org/volunteer. You can join the team, help us wage this fight back, comrades. So thank you. I'm going to just kind of address some of the questions quickly in the chat. One question was asking about PayPal, about if it's, if they're withholding donated funds. Please go to handsoffuhuru.org/donate. That is the only place where you can give to this campaign. And if you, again, I said, if you do want to send a check, you can email info@handsoffuhuru.org and we will tell you how you can send that check as well. So I just want to make that clear. And thank you for these questions so we can just clarify all of this right now as well. I do want to also say that we have a question here for from Raya Fogarty. She says, is there a plan or a way created for individuals as well as organizations to make public statements of unity, to support and calling on everyone to join, to support the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Defense Campaign and defend and condemn these attacks in the unity with principles of unity as well. And I'll just say briefly, in the very beginning, one of the most overwhelming things for us, which was the overwhelming amount of support of people going out there and just recording videos saying, hands off the Uhuru movement, hands off Chairman Amalia Shatella. You can do that. You can make video statements. You can post those on social media, send them to us, but you can also make a public statement by, coming in and joining this campaign from the various fronts where you are anywhere and building your own local committees of the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Defense Campaign, wherever you are in the world. So I did want to also acknowledge that and thank you for that question, Raya. All right, so let me just see how we are on time, and I'll let our timekeeper just kind of give me an update on where we are on time. But there is another question here, Chairman, from Reverend Julianne Roberts. Yes, and here this question says, what are the implications of the former Soviet Union having repudiated communism, and how does this affect the defense?
Well, I think the issue, I think that should be really clear to us, that even during the time of the so-called Cold War, when there was a Soviet Union, a real historically consequential event, that the real question has always been colonialism. That is to say, who is going to control the resources of Africa and all the other colonized people? This is what has kept the United States rich. Being able to declare that that South America was its backyard, and being able to declare that the various countries were nothing but banana republics that were supposed to produce resources for the United States. And then, of course, the critical aspect of that is the land stolen from the indigenous people here. Even the bragged about so-called Louisiana Purchase that resulted in Louisiana being part of them, that was purchased from France after the colonial struggle of African people in Haiti defeated Napoleon and made the French incapable of protecting what was called its possessions in what is now called the Americas. So you have the $15 million Jefferson purchased France and ability to extend slavery and part of that. But also he didn't just purchase France, he was purchasing all the indigenous people who lived here as well. The colonial question is a very pronounced issue. So the point that I would make is that what the Soviet Union forced the United States to do is to defend itself in the international community for what it's doing to colonized people and African people and colonized people everywhere. It was put the United States in a position of having to say our system is better than the Soviet system, than the Soviet Russians, as they call them. And so they had to make this contest, and that created some elements of moderation about the behavior of the United States in face of this contest it was involved in with what was called Soviet Russia. So since the collapse of the Soviet Union, I think that was, 1994, was it? Since the collapse of the Soviet Union, they've created what they call a unipolar world. So they don't have to contend with anybody. They can treat anybody any way they want to, unless the people they're treating a certain way are successful in rising up and overturning this. So that what has happened now, Russia is a factor, and that's one of the reasons they would charge us with working for Russia, because they have to compete with Russia and China for not only for some kind of loyalty from African people, but as something that they can prove to the whole world as they put themselves forward as the democracy and struggling against the autocrats and autocracy. They have to prove themselves, and so that is a kind of leverage, if you will, that might be available, and that's the kind of leverage that the United States is trying to destroy anybody from having, so that you know, to say that the Russians are funding us is also to say that you can't have a relationship with any force out there in the world outside of the oppressor ourselves. Uhuru. So I know that was a long response to you, Comrade Loretta. So I'm glad to see that you're here in this meeting, Uhuru. Julianne, yeah, I said Loretta. Yeah, Comrade Julianne, yeah.
And thank you, Sister Julianne, for that question. And yes, like you said, you know, we can have friends who you don't like, you know, and that's just straight up. And it just again about the relationship that we are, you know, nope, and we are done with this relationship. So it's very clear that the US is not retreating. They are going to fight like hell to keep Africa under their thumb and under their grip. So I want to just really appreciate you, Chairman, for that. And I think we're going to we have room for maybe just one more comment at this point because we are wrapping up. And some of these questions we are going to hold and keep for our next webinars, comrades, because this won't be the last. And we do plan to have another one in the next coming days, another mass meeting to be able to give you all an update, to have more of our legal team here represented to help continue to explain what is happening and how we want to forward this fight back. So if your question was not answered today, it will be. And I want to just go ahead and make some brief announcements and just acknowledge some things that are going to be happening in the next coming days. I want to thank everybody for your questions as well. So again, if you want to form a committee, you know where you can go. You can go to Hands Off, or if you want to form a committee or, you know, start donating and, you know, fundraising and such, you can go to handsoffuhuru.org. You can go to handsoffuhuru.org/volunteer as well if you want to volunteer. We want you to come back on December 29th. You will hear more about how you can join our next mass meeting prior to another one that we're going to have on January 9th. All this information you will find on our website, handsoffuhuru.org/events. In the next coming days, you will hear more about how to follow the campaign. Join the rapid response. Go to handsoffuhuru.org and click the button that you want to take the pledge for the rapid response. And we have some more events that are coming up in the new year that we will also have on our website as well. But we also have t-shirts. So if you have been to our website and you have not seen that we have a shop page, if you go to handsoffuhuru.org/shop, you can go ahead and order one of our shirts. Show your solidarity on your back. Proceeds of those t-shirts will go towards the campaign. So we want to really salute everybody, and we want to see you at the next webinar wearing your shirts. Post on social media, whatever you got to do. #HandsOffUhuru. So I'm going to turn it over to the chairman before we, wrap up. I really want to salute everybody who made it to today's event. This is the time for us to not retreat, for us to bring everything. We will win this fight. We should be happy that we have an opportunity for members of the world to now talk to each other in a way that we can organize and bring this down together. So I want to just say hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa. And I want to turn it over to our chairman to provide some closing remarks. Uhuru.
Thank you, Comrade Mwezi. And there are a couple of things I want to say. One thing is absolutely necessary for me to mention is how the United States government would use African people, weaponize African people in its efforts to often to contribute to our oppression while involving itself in really unsavory acts. And I'm thinking about right now, well, a couple of things that even during the time that the United States was fighting against the Vietnamese people who were also colonized. Some 50 to 65% of the US troops who were on the front line fighting against the colonized Vietnamese people were African from this country who were colonized. And so often we get used, especially when we don't know what our struggle is about. And so we just saw the United States do this thing with Brittany Griner. And somebody, raised the question of whether Biden would have done for what he did for Brittany Griner if she were not an NBA star, something to that effect. And a response came from Comrade Masamela that he doesn't know, but he does know that if Brittany Griner had been arrested in the United States, Biden would have done nothing to help her. And the fact is that there are thousands of African people in this country right now, that is to say the United States, who are arrested because of marijuana charges. And so it's a real cynical thing that's being done, how people would be used to paint this great picture of the United States. And the one reason they can get away with it, they think, is they can crush anybody African who's offering a real criticism and a real look at this country. I want to express appreciation to all of you comrades who've come on and from the very beginning have shown just incredible statements and positions and actions of solidarity. I know that I personally did 2 interviews that's now been seen by more than 1 million people, and that we saw tens of thousands of people responding to the interviews about the attacks, and solidarity from all of them. That the people hate oppression, and that there's no way, no action, no flashbang grenades, no tanks in the middle of the night that will deter this deep and profound human quest, a requirement to be free. That's going to be there. And the African People's Socialist Party, we have a choice. I mean, we can roll over and even we can even agree with the FBI to submit to some form of compliance and beat this. But the thing is that our people require more than that, and we have to be able of providing more than that for the people. And so I want to thank everybody. I want to also mention that some people may not have known this, but Comrade Zaki Baruti, who's here in St. Louis as well, and has historically been involved in the struggle to free our people here, just a really incredible force who, as has been mentioned, stepped out and right from the stop and within hours after the attack, participated in a press conference with me on the front steps of the house that the FBI had attacked earlier. And I think that we saw some kind of fake, some kind of contrived or created site that was posted, that posted an article that said that I had turned Zaki Baruti and Cori Bush into some kind of Russian assets. And that, and I think that's just part of the kind of war, propaganda war that we're involved in. The FBI agent tells me, you're going to make the news. This is going to be in the news. And then they would do what they put this stuff out about Cori Bush. Of course, we haven't heard from Cori Bush. And but Zaki has been there with us all along, and the notion that either that Zaki would, need to be employed by the Russians to stand up for our freedom. And he's been doing this for much of his life, So I just wanted to make that, and also to recognize in this meeting people like the representatives from the Green Party, because they are also in St. Louis. And I see a comment saying nobody's a deeper Russian asset than Donald Trump. But I just want to recognize your presence, and the struggle I've been having with the Green Party is that what has to be recognized is that African people have a right to be free as African people, and you've come out in support, in opposition to this attack, and we appreciate that. But we really engage in a struggle for the world to recognize that Africans have a right to be free from colonial domination, that all people have a right to be free, and that what is called progressive in history today must be the efforts of the peoples of the world to end this relationship that's lasted for more than 600 years with the advent of colonial slavery, and that has spread throughout the world. And so I want to thank you, Mwezi. Thank everybody for being here. Hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa is relate to Africa. Relentless, comrades, Uhuru.
We are winning.
We are winning.